Hello guys, I am taking mock interview for one of my subscriber to help him to get the confidence before the real time interview. It is kind of preparation round and also giving a personal feedback so that it will be helpful to improve and do better in real time. If you think also need such mock interview preparation with me, either a manual testing or the automation testing, you can drop me a mail. You can find out the mail ID in the comment section. Also, I'm taking the telephonic round because most of the people having the shyness behavior, so they do not come for the mock interview, but they want to give interview before the real time interview. So I am hoping, so you can all drop me a mail and we can have the mock interview. Okay, so let's begin. Something new you will definitely learn today.
Shiv,
Yeah, hi.
this is Shiv. Hello, Shiv. This is Deepak. Thank you
Yes.
for taking my call.
Yeah,
Hello,
sure,
this
no
is Shiv.
problem. How are you?
I'm fine. How
Oh,
are you?
okay, I'm also good. Thank you. Basically, if you don't mind, we will take your mock interview. Okay, I will ask you question, and based on the interview, if I upload this like our conversation on my YouTube channel,
Your
there's
voice
no
is
issue, right?
breaking. Hello.
Hello.
Yes, Shiv. Your voice was breaking, so I was not able to hear what you said.
Right now it is okay.
Yes, yes.
So I'm telling if you don't mind if I upload this a whole conversation our whole conversation on my YouTube channel, right? So there's no problem.
Yes, yes. No problem.
Okay, so basically just give me a moment. Okay, I can see your resume. Okay,
Okay.
so you have currently 2.6 years of experience, right? 2.6 months of experience.
2.8 years.
Okay,
2.8 months.
okay. Okay, so basically, so let's start with the interview only, okay? No problem.
Yes, yes.
Okay, so can you tell me about yourself and your role and responsibility in current organization?
Sure, sure.
Yeah.
My name is Deepak Vishwakarma, and I've done my graduation in Bachelor of Science and Information Technology.
Okay.
Currently, I'm having an experience of 2 years and 8 months,
Okay.
and I'm working as a software tester at Argod Private Limited. My roles and responsibilities are to gather the requirements from the business team, understand the requirements, coordinate with the developers, and research the application, create the test script, and create the test data, and get the explain the defects to the developer, get the defects fixed from them, and update the status of the test cases. So this is my responsibilities at Argod Private Limited,
Okay.
and
Yeah.
my skills are mentioned in the on the resume, and
Yeah.
my goals are to become a business analyst. So, but till then, I will be enjoying learning and going deeper into software testing field.
Okay, sir. So that's great. Basically, one thing I just want to know, in your 2.8 years of experience, right? Two years and 8 months of experience, like how much time you spend on manual testing and then you move to like automation testing?
Okay, so I've most of the time I've spent on the manual testing itself.
Okay.
Currently, I'm the only tester in my organization.
Okay.
So, and there are a lot of developers, so I need to handle. So most of the time, my time is spent in the manual testing itself. However, when there are some test cases which are repeated again and again,
Okay.
I write the Selenium script for them, so I don't have to waste my time much more on the repeated testing.
Okay. Yeah. Great. Okay, so let's begin with some Java questions. Okay, as you writing Selenium script, so basically you are aware about the Java concept as well, right?
Yes.
So are you just writing the Selenium script, or is there any framework is already built and you are writing it?
So I've learned through the videos and I've developed the framework.
Okay.
Okay. So I've developed a which helps me to report what are the test cases passing or failing, and it is helping me to maintain my code.
Okay.
So I have developed a framework for myself.
So, okay, so in this years of experience, if you know develop the framework, so I just want to know like how you approach this whole scenario and you develop the framework. Can you explain about your framework a little bit?
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
So what I've done is first I'll just go through all the blogs and understand how it will be really helpful
Okay.
to create my framework. And I got to know that the Selenium is a open source and it is also built on Java. So I
Right.
started to learn regarding the Selenium, and as it is an open source, so companies do not need to bear the licensing cost. So it was a
Right.
plus point for me. And thereafter I learned about the TestNG, and I got to learn that TestNG will really help me because I will be able to achieve cross-browsing testing. Because of it, I will also be able to achieve the reporting
Okay.
and the other functionality which are in the TestNG framework. So this was my approach, and I just started to learn, and I used the page object model, and
Okay.
I started to prepare my framework. So it is like this.
Okay, okay, sure, I got it. So basically, you are using your framework as a TestNG framework, and like the page object model design pattern you basically implement in your framework, right?
Yes, yes.
Okay. Okay, so as you develop the framework, so can you explain me the few OOPS concept which is related to your the framework and the project basically? It is
Yes.
not something I am asking for the OOPS concept. Basically, if you are if you giving me the answer of like OOPS concept, then you can just relate where you have implemented in your project or framework.
Okay. So basically, the OOPS concept which I have implemented in my framework is one of is the encapsulation.
Okay.
I've made all my locators, all my page objects on the pages as the private, and
Okay.
I'm accessing them through the methods, and I'm calling them in my test script. So
Okay.
this is one way of achieving the encapsulation.
Right.
Other
So you are
I've achieved.
so sorry. So basically, you are encapsulating only the locators. That is the web element. You are not encapsulating somewhere the methods, right?
No, I've declared my method as the public. I'm
Okay.
not encapsulating them. I
Okay.
just declared the page object as the private.
Okay.
And
Okay.
the other thing is, I've also achieved the abstract. I've also achieved method overloading.
Okay.
But the method overloading is not. I can say that I have achieved it. It is already provided by the Selenium in form of the frame. So the frame, there is a method called as a frame,
Okay.
and it is overloaded. So that is the overloading I have achieved, but I have knowledge of that, how to create the overloading method.
Okay.
And I have also achieved abstraction by declaring I created an interface, okay, and I have declared what method will be reusable in most of my classes. So I have declared some of those, and I've followed them in my test script. So this is the way of achieving the abstraction.
Okay.
And yes, so this was,
So basically,
and
so
and I've achieved. Sorry to interrupt you. I've
yeah.
also achieved inheritance by calling the base class into my test script. So
Yes, yes,
there is the
I'm
concept
looking.
of
Yes,
interrelationship.
right, right. I'm looking for this only. I mean, you have explained me a few functionality, like a few concepts, but you are missing the like inheritance, the basic or the important part. We can say that.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
I used to say that as my first one, but I just forgot to say that.
Yeah, no
That's
issue.
as my,
No issue. That's fine. Totally fine. Yeah. Okay. So that is good. And next question is basically, can we override the main method? If yes, then reason, and if it is no, then why we cannot override the main method?
okay. So the answer is no, we cannot override the main method.
Okay.
The override main method is a static method. The static method belongs to the class and not to the instance of the class. So this is the reason we cannot override the main method, because
Okay.
it is static in nature.
And also the counterpart is, can we override the main method?
Override or overload, sir?
Overload, overload.
Yes. Yes, we can overload the main method,
Okay.
and Yes, it can be done.
So
But the
suppose,
execution will be start from the main method only because the JVM understand the starting execution for the JVM is to understand the line public static void means and the methods are string out. So the JVM will start the execution from the main method only. Yes, but we can overload the main method and then call them in the main method only. So you can achieve overloading.
so as you said, so basically we can overload the main method, right? But we are just first of all JVM executes our main method, and then from there the other overloaded method will call, right?
Yes, yes.
Okay. Okay. So just consider one scenario, okay? Suppose I have a class A and class B. So class B is basically extending the class A, okay?
Okay.
And just now you have explained me the override concept, right? So basically override means the basically the all structure will be the same, the method signature will be the same, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so suppose I have a class A and class B extending the class A, and both the methods, suppose method name is display is present in class A also, in class B also, right?
Okay.
But there the method signature, the where we write modifier access, okay? So over there in class A, I am writing class A protected void display, and inside that system.out.println, okay?
Okay.
In class B, I'm extending class A, and I'm just writing void display, and inside that system.out.println. So will it work, or it is
No, no. It will not work. It will take a compile time error. The child class should have a, you know, the parent, the parent class should have a parent modifier. For example, if the access modifier in the parent class is public,
okay?
then it needs to be public in the child class as well. If it is protected, then in the child class it needs to be public or protected. So this is how it works.
So
So you should, yes.
yes, I continue.
Yeah, so this is the way it should work. The modifier in the child class should be a upper or equals to the modifier written in the parent class.
Yeah, correct. So basically, we can explain this answer in a better way. Is like the order is basically access modifier order is basically in decreasing order, right? I mean, at the beginning it is like the lower one, and at the child class level, it should be the higher one. I mean, the less
Yes.
restrictive, right?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, great answer. Okay, so next question is basically what is the parent class of error and exception?
Parent class of error and exception.
Yeah.
The parent class of the error and exception is the throwable.
Okay.
And also the parent class of the throwable is the object, which is a super class of all the classes in Java.
Yeah.
So this is the hierarchy.
Okay. So you know like exception, right? So
Yes, I have idea.
yeah. So basically in the exception, can we have a try with multiple catches?
Yes, we can have multiple catches.
So suppose okay, so I have one try. I'm writing some block of code, and then we have catch. Okay, multiple catch block is there. So and in one of the first catch block, I'm just writing the main exception like a catch, and in the bracket exception is object. Okay, and then in the second catch, I'm just writing catch in the bracket arithmetic exception and object even. Okay. So will this code work like?
This will work, but this doesn't make any sense because when as you said, the first catch is catching the exception. So all the exception will be catched in the first catch only. So
Right.
there is no need to go to the next catch. The ideal situation should be like we are catching the arithmetic exception in the first catch, and
Okay.
then after that we are catching the exception, like other exception in using the exception class. So that makes sense, but the way we have described, it doesn't make sense. It will work, but it doesn't make any sense.
Correct. Okay. So basically, okay. So next question is basically like we have different exceptions, right? So can you just categorize? I'm just naming the few exception. You just have to categorize whether it is a checked exception or unchecked exception. Okay.
Okay.
So I have first exception is file not found exception. Another exception is class cast exception. So both the exception is part of we can say that the compile time or runtime exception.
So the both exception comes into the compile time. There are three exceptions in the compile time. That is IO exception, and
Okay.
the file comes on that.
Mm-hmm.
The other is the SQL exception,
Okay.
and the last is class not found exception.
No, I'm not asking for class not found exception, class cast exception.
Class cast exception.
Yes.
The class cast exception, I think it will. Sorry, I have no idea of this. I think
Okay.
it will come into this. No idea. It is
Class
better to-
cast exception basically is a part of a runtime exception. Okay.
Yes,
Yeah, so basically what happened, just let me tell you, like class exception, class cast exception will occur when we try to, whenever we have a parent and child, two different classes are there, okay, and we are extending parent class, and we just want to, whatever we have created the object of parent class as well and child class as well, but what we are doing, what we are trying to do is we are just assigning the object of child class to the parent class. Okay, so that is acceptable. Okay, child class to parent class is acceptable, but in the another way, whenever we try to do parent class object assigning to child class object, then it will be not possible. That time we will get this class exception.
Yes.
Okay.
To overcome, we need to do like the downcasting.
Yeah, yes. So it is a runtime. It is a part of runtime exception. Yeah. Okay. So can you just tell me, suppose I have one class, okay, and I don't want to create any object of this class. So how can I call the different methods which is present in the class?
You can use this keyword, and using this keyword, you can call the methods
Okay.
and the variables of the class.
No, I just want to whatever the methods are present in particular class, I just want to call that method only. So nothing else, variable and not required.
So, have you declared them as static? So if
Yes.
you are declaring them as a static, so you can use like the class name dot the method name or the variable name. So
Yeah,
this is
right.
one way.
Yeah, that is what I'm looking for actually. So yes, this is the right answer. Just I want to know, like, if I have class and method inside that, then how without creating the object I can call that particular method.
These are the two ways of calling the method using the this and the static.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Till now you are going good. Nothing to worry. Just give me one more answer, like why string is immutable, and can you justify like a string is immutable with some example?
Yes, the string is an immutable class in Java. The
Okay.
reason is that you when you create an object of a string class, then two objects are created. One is created into heap memory, and the second is created into the literal constant literal pool. So
Okay.
it is declared as immutable because when you are creating a literal of the same name which already exists in the constant literal pool, so it will not create a new object. It will just refer to the old. So
Okay.
the reason to make this string as immutable is to it's for the memory optimization, because string is mostly used in Java. So the Java developers made this as immutable class to achieve memory utilization.
Okay.
And so this is the reason it is declared, it is created as immutable.
Okay. So basically, if I just want to modify this string, then what I have to do?
Modify the string.
Yeah. Is there
You
any
can
way, like, suppose, as you said, like string is developers make like make this as a immutable. That is, whenever we just creating the object of a string, then we cannot change the value of it, right?
yes.
So basically, if I want to modify it in, that particular string, then how can I achieve this thing?
If you are using the string, then it will create a new object. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So this will not help you to create. This will not help you for memory optimization. What we can do is use the string buffer class or a string builder class. These are not immutable,
Okay.
and you can achieve memory optimization through them.
Okay.
So these are the activities.
Okay. So can you? I'm just giving you one scenario. Just give me what will be the output. Suppose I have one string. Okay.
Okay.
String s1 equals to abc. Okay.
Okay.
And then the object which I have created s1 dot concat xyz. Okay. And then system dot out dot println, and inside the bracket s1 I am printing. What will be the output?
It will return the first what you said, 1, 2, ABC. Yes, it will be.
So you are telling like the output will be the ABC.
I'm not remembering that the concat method is returning the string type or not. That's why I'm getting confused.
Okay.
The reason is that
Okay.
yes,
So basically,
yes, it will return ABC. I guess it will return ABC.
okay, yeah, you are right, but you should. I mean, you are somewhere confused between like why it is ABC only. As you said, it is immutable. String is immutable. So the reason behind of this example is only the string is immutable, because whenever we are creating the object, we are just concating with the s1 dot concat xyz, right? So here we are just concatenating. We are not, referencing and doing anything. So that's why whatever we have created string s1 equals to abc, that is why this value is getting printed only. Okay.
Yes.
If
Okay.
if I am giving one more scenario, if I am doing the same thing like string s1 equals to abc, and again I am writing s1 equals to s1 dot concat xyz, then it will be print abc and xyz together, right?
Yes. You understand?
Yeah. So great. So nothing to worry, but just focus on this small thing, because in interviewers basically play with this thing only in the interview.
Okay.
Okay. So can you? So do you know the like collection part of it?
Yes, I do have knowledge of the collection.
Okay.
Not a very deep knowledge,
Okay.
but yes, I do have a little bit of knowledge of
Okay, so
collection.
can you just give me the what is the hierarchy of the collection framework entirely?
Yes, first there is the object, then there is a collection,
Mm-hmm.
and under that there are three main interfaces. There is the list, there is a map, and there is a set.
Okay.
And under
These
the
are
list,
classes or interface?
these are the interfaces, sir.
Okay.
And under the list interface there are four classes, that is array list, vector, there is a stack,
Mm-hmm.
there is also one more, but
Okay.
there is also one more, but I'm not able to name it. Sorry.
Yeah, no problem. You can explain others also. No problem.
And under the set there is a hash set, there is a tree set.
Okay.
And under the hash map there is a hash map and there is a tree map. So this is the knowledge I have regarding the collection. But
Okay.
as I said, I don't have a in-depth knowledge of the collection. I'm learning more.
Yeah, no issue. So just give me the difference between the list and set. Like when a person or as a tester or a developer will opt for for the list concept or the set interface for purpose. Like what is the actual requirement? This thing will come into the picture.
Yes, so I can, so for my knowledge, I usually use array list when I need to store all the values, that is the duplicate values as well as the normal values.
Okay.
And I use the set when I used to only store the unique values, because set only allows you to store unique values. So this is the reason one. And the other reason is when I have to maintain the order. So array list helps me to maintain the order, whereas
Okay.
set does not help me. So this
So,
is the basic.
sorry, can you explain like like list or set who maintain the order?
List maintain the order.
Okay, 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 no problem. Yeah. Hmm. Okay, so let's move to some Selenium questions. Okay.
Okay.
Can you just give me a basic difference between what is the difference between like driver.get method and the driver.navigate.to method?
Navigate. So you are asking that what is the difference between the to method and the get method. Okay. So the difference, there is no difference between the get and the to method. The to method is internally implementing the get method only. The
Okay.
implementation of the get method is done in the remote web driver class, and the implementation of the to method is done under the remote navigation class, which is the inner class of the remote web driver class.
Okay.
So basically, the interface help you to travel through the history. And under the navigate interface, there are methods such as to refresh, back and forward. So, but there is no difference between the to method and the get method.
Okay. And so do you use in your project like somewhere, as a tester, we need to take screenshot of particular things whenever we find bug or anything, right? So,
Yes,
so do you have you anytime, automate this thing like taking the screenshot with the help of Selenium?
yes, sir. I've implemented this functionality. What I've done is I've used the take screenshot interface, and
Okay.
I've created the method of take screenshot to take the screenshot, and I've provided this code into the SFNG I listener of the listener interface.
Okay.
It has a method as such as on test pass, on test fail, on test skip. So I provided this code, added this code into the on test failure. So
Okay.
whenever my test scripts fail, it automatically takes the screenshot. So, and it
Okay.
stays under a screenshot folder which I created in the project.
Mm-hmm.
So all the failure, when the scripts fail, it takes screenshot, and that can be viewed in the screenshot folder.
Okay, okay. So you basically you make the utility folder, a folder inside your project itself, right?
Yes, utility is the correct keyword.
Yeah.
Yes, so this is
Okay, no problem. And what are the different locators present in Selenium, and what different locators you mostly used to work on?
yes. There are total 8 locators present in the Selenium.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the ID, name, class name, tag name, linkage, also linkage,
Okay.
CSS selectors, and the last one is the XPath.
Okay.
So mostly I try to use the ID because it is the fastest and unique.
Mm-hmm.
Thereafter, I try to use the name. There is a name attribute, so I go with it. If not, then I use the other locator, and like CSS selector or the partial linkers. But basically, I mostly use CSS selector, and the last resort is my XPath because it has too many methods and it really helps.
Okay. Okay. So your preference for the
strategy.
XPath will be very less, right?
I do have a knowledge of the XPath, but I try to use it as a last resort because it is comparatively slow to the other locators.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, but I do have a knowledge of the XPath.
Okay. So as you said, you have a knowledge on this thing. So suppose you just need to, work with the XPath, and you just need to locate a particular element which is present on the web page, and you just need to extract the text over there. So how you can do that?
First, the ideal way is to identify the web element using the locator. Okay. And then there is a get text method in the web driver interface. So you can get the text of that particular web element. So this is a way to extract the text of the web element in Selenium.
Okay, great. So what is the super interface of Selenium WebDriver?
It is a search context and it has two methods known as find element and find element. So yes.
Okay, so what is the so basically you said like find element and find element. Two methods are there. So basically what they return, both of them?
The first return the web element and the second returns the list of web elements.
And if suppose I am not able to find out the particular web element in terms of find element, and on the other hand I'm not able to find out any list values, then what it will return?
If you are not able to, if the driver is not able to find any element using find element method, then it will throw no such element exception.
Okay.
Whereas if the driver is not able to find any element using the find elements method, then it will return an empty list. So
Okay.
this is the answer.
Okay. So have you worked on checkboxes?
Yes.
Okay. So how if you can just give me a basic syntax of it, so.
Okay, so what if I want to check the checkboxes is selected or not, then I can use the is selected method.
Okay.
And this is the way I just go on the page and check if I'm clicking on the checkbox, it is getting selected or not. Using the is selected, I get the value as true of it, and then I'm able to verify whether the functionality is.
And where do you store this? Like based on this, like it is selected or not, and then where do you store?
It is I just create a variable and like flag, boolean flag, and I'm just.
Do you think based on creating the variable, it will handle multiple checkboxes value, because checkbox is something not a radio button, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So it required variable or it required a list or set or any kind of thing?
So, okay, checkboxes. Yes.
Yes.
So
are you getting my question?
Yes, I'm getting a question, but I'm not come to this scenario.
Okay,
so,
whatever you said is somewhere you are right, but what I'm think of from my perspective, like if you are working with the checkboxes, then you will definitely first of all you try to locate that all checkboxes present, right? 2 or 3 or 4. Then you just want to store them in an array list, right?
Yes, and in the array list, then I can validate whether it is selected by iterating. Sorry for the word description.
No problem. So basically, what you just answered me, you just directly jump to the validating part of it, the checkboxes.
Yes.
Yeah.
What the ideal answer should be like, I will create a array list of the elements, and then I will iterate, and then I will validate whether each element is each checkbox is getting selected or not using each selected method.
Correct. Very true. Yeah, no problem. Yeah. So the next question is like, what different types of weight you have used in Selenium?
Implicit weight, I've used implicit weight and I've used explicit weight.
Can you differentiate between two? Like, what is the basic difference between them?
Yes, the implicit weight is used to to specify the amount of time the driver should wait when searching for the element before throwing an exception.
Okay.
And implicit if the element is not found within the specified time, then it throws no such element exception. And when you specify, like when you use implicit weight, then it will be applied to all the elements. Okay. So this is the implicit weight, and the explicit weight is used to specify the amount of time for a specific condition to be completed. So this is and yes, but the difference is that explicit weight, you can specify weight on a particular element using the explicit weight. So yes, this is
So okay, I got it. But can you, if you have to, just explain in very layman language, like the difference between the two? Like, so can you just relate with some example, like where you have faced this kind of way?
Okay, so implicit basically I usually use when I was learning the Selenium,
Okay.
and when I was not able, when the, say, for example, an element was taking a little time, or there is a slight delay in the load of an element, then I was using the implicit wait,
Okay.
and the explicit wait, now I'm using mostly explicit wait because I'm not waiting for all the elements, and I'm not providing the wait for all the elements.
Okay.
But I'm just waiting for the specific condition. For example, I need to check whether the alert is present or not. So there are many methods available in expected condition class, which helps you to validate them, and you can check like is alert present or not, or is element visible or not, or is the invisibility of an element going to be present. So there are multiple, and based on those conditions, I validate
Okay.
and I get my job done.
Yeah, so you are right. Just I'm giving my point of view. Like, if I'm asking you just to, just give me the example. So basically, for like implicit wait, you can say that the amount of period it required to, just wait, and then it will load. So at the time of while opening the browser, we have to wait some time, right? Because it takes time to load a particular page or the URL which we have requested. So over there we can use implicit wait, right? And in explicit wait, what we can say that suppose I'm hitting some URL, and after hitting the URL, some of the element will be just on the page after when we click on some other element. Like suppose I am hitting the URL, and then I have one page, and in that page if I am clicking on one button, and then that particular element will be pop up. Okay. So that kind of example, we can say that the explicit wait will more we can use that thing. Okay. I mean, where you have to, just wait for a particular element, then we can go for the explicit wait, and implicit wait it's normally a general wait. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, so you just have to, I understand you explain and you know the concept, but sometimes what happens, the interview wants to, just listen the part of it, like what I have asked you, just give me that part of it. You just, you cannot navigate to them here and there. So it will not, like what they want is not getting fulfilled. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I will try to keep it short.
Yes, yes. You just need to on point, because sometimes they don't want to listen everything.
Okay.
Okay. So let's move to the TestNG part. What are the different annotations you basically use in TestNG?
The different annotations of the test and present in the test and we are at the rate before shoot, at the rate before test, at the rate before class, at the rate before method, at the rate test, and then there are other like after method, after class, after test, and after switch. So these are all the annotations present in the test and
so can you differentiate between the two annotations for me, like at the rate parameters, at the rate data provider? Like, just want to know that, like, why we are using in TestNG at the rate parameters and why we are using at the rate data provider.
Okay, so basically we use at the rate parameter to provide data to a value. Okay.
Okay.
If we want to provide a single value to such an element, okay, so we can use the data. We can use a parameter.
Okay.
But if you want to provide if you want to run the same test case using multiple sets of data,
okay.
So in that case, the other data provider will be the ideal choice. So
okay.
This is the difference between the other parameter and the other data provider.
Okay, great. So basically, a data provider, what it return basically? Can you tell me?
Data provider return the
return
object.
type. Yeah, basically what it return.
It returns the actually you can it returns the object basically as I used It
Mhm.
returns the object, and we can
Yeah,
we can
it is returning the object only, but again it's
we can we can specify what we want to return. Like if we want to return only the string object, then we can also, because it is an array, right? We
Right.
are creating an array of the object, then it should return the object of an object class, right?
Right,
But if
right.
you want to create an object of the string, if you just want the string, then we can. So this is the idle.
Yeah, correct. Okay, so can you just tell me, like, suppose I have 10 classes, okay, 10 test classes are there, and I just want to, execute the, suppose I have 10 classes, 10 test methods are there, okay, and then I just need to run, first of all, the first test, and then the sixth one, seventh one, eighth one, ninth one, and 10, and then second, third, fourth. So how do I do that?
Sorry, I didn't get
Yeah,
the
yeah.
question.
So basically what I want to know is the exact execution, order of execution in the test ng. Suppose I have 10 test methods, okay, @test, and I have method 1, method 2, method 3, like that. 10 methods are there. And I want
Okay.
to run first test method, and after that I will go at the down part, like 10th test method, and then I will move towards the upper side, like 9th, 8th, 7th, 6th, 4th, like that.
Yes. So, yeah, in order to have the order execution as per your requirement, what we can do is we can use the priority attribute, and it the default value of the priority in the testing is 0.
Okay.
So the lower the priority you will set, the first it will be run. So this how you can achieve the required
No,
what you are requiring.
you just gave me the generic answer, right? You need to use the attributes, and then the default value is 0. But what is my requirement is I just need to run first test, and then I just need to go down on the test, and then 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, like that I need to run. So how you are defining the priority, you just give me that thing.
Okay. Actually, I can, but I'm not able. So what I will do is the first method. You want to execute the first method. Right?
Yes, yes.
So what I will do is I will provide the least priority to it. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And then thereafter, what method you want to run?
10th method.
10th method.
Yes.
So I will provide the priority as the second last. Okay. I will provide the priority less than the what I provided in the first method.
Okay.
So it will execute it the second. For example, for first method I have declared the priority as like -7. So I
Okay.
will declare the priority to this the 10th method as -6. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
-7, -6. And then after what you want, then you can go like this.
Okay, yeah, you explained in correct way only, but you only answered me like I need to use priority attribute. So basically what you can do, you just make first test as priority equals to 0, and then you just go to the bottom of the like 10th test methods, and over there you can assign priority equals to 1, and then the upper one like test method 9 we have, then priority equals to 2, like that you can assign, right?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, so you just don't go, you are explaining in the correct way, but you are going in some minus values and all that things. So you just clearly answer the things like you can assign in this way only.
Okay.
You got my point, or somewhere it is confusing?
No, I got your point. Like, they declare the first method as a 0, and then they
Yes,
give
yes.
it the other. Yeah.
Yeah, you explained in correct way only, like -7 and then -6. But again, why you have to just go to the -6 and 7 part?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. And in your project, basically the reporting tool, which reporting you use basically for reporting purpose?
For creating reports,
Yeah. Then like if you have to create the report and present to the client, like how many number of test cases are passes and fail. So which report like you use basically?
yes. So I have integrated the extent report into my framework. So
Okay.
it helps me to create the report, and it gives good visual about how many test cases I have run, how many test cases I have passed, failed, or skipped.
Mm-hmm.
So this is the thing that for everything I've used the Excel report.
Okay.
And there is also SSMG also provide you the for reporting like enable HTML report it creates for you
Mm-hmm.
or index HTML. So these are the three reports that you can use. But basically I use the Excel report because the visual of the report is nice and it creates a good impression on the manager or the client.
Yes, yes, got it. No problem. It's a good reporting tool actually. Okay, so as I see in your resume, like you also mentioned you know the basics of REST assured as well, like API testing, right?
Yes, yes, I know the REST actually.
Okay.
I'm learning REST now. Actually, I've learned 2-3 months back, but as I am not using. Okay, so I'm starting to forget the topic. So yes, but I will still try to answer your question, whatever you ask.
Yeah, I will ask you very basic in terms of, it is not something you need to study. Basically, you can answer somewhere. No problem.
Okay.
1-2 question I will ask, nothing more, okay? So, basically, if you studied like REST assured, so what exactly the REST assured is? First of all, you just give me something to...
So REST assured is a API which helps you to, automate the APIs, automate the process of the testing the APIs, and it helps you in that. So
Okay.
the REST assured is this, and yes.
Okay, no problem. And what are the different HTTP methods basically, do you know? Can you name them?
Sorry, what are the different?
No, I'm just asking what are the different HTTP methods are
Okay.
there? Like, yeah.
Yes, sure. But as per my knowledge, I know the knowledge of this HTTP method that are get, post, put, delete, the patch, the head, the option. So
Okay.
these are the methods that I have knowledge.
And can you differentiate between the put and patch? What is the difference between put and patch?
The put method is used to update the entire information
Mm-hmm.
of the resource, and the patch method are used to update some part of the resource. So that is the difference between the put and the patch.
Okay. Okay, great. So last question from my side is basically, what do you understand by the status code which is present in HTTP like 300?
300.
Yeah, 300. We have a series, right? 100, 200, 300, 400, 500. So I just want to know the series which is in 300. So what exactly the meaning of 300 series is?
I'm sorry to say, so, but I have no knowledge about the 300 series. What I have knowledge is 200 and 400 and 500.
Okay.
I'm learning the more the more codes, but as of now I don't have knowledge of the 300 series.
Okay, no problem. So 300 series basically is for redirection purpose. So
Yes.
whatever the we have status code which lies under the 300 series, it is for redirection. Like suppose sometime we try to execute some endpoints or the API and it is not present or it is somewhere developers make them as a redirection. So that time we will get this kind of status code. Okay. So yeah, that is from my side. I mean, I'm done with your interview and everything from my side. It feels like you are, 90 to 95% you are prepared, but somewhere just navigating to here and there. That needs to be from your end. You need to just make it in short and crisp, like what the interviewer is actually asking. Okay. Yeah, so that is one thing I observed, like you are answering very well and you also know the concepts also, like whatever they are expecting from your years of experience point of view. So everything seems to be, correct only. Just, you have to wait for calls, then it will be definitely first or second company itself, you will get shortlisted in the company. I'm pretty sure this much. Okay.
Yes,
Yeah. So do you have any question for me? Like if you have any question, you can ask me just.
yes, actually, I don't have any much question, but what I am feeling is I'm losing confidence day by day because I'm not receiving any calls, and the thought that comes to my mind is because I'm not work with the people who are working on the rest assured, I want to just know, okay, how they really operate. So I don't know where I'm lying. Okay.
Okay.
So the problem I'm facing is that I don't know that I'm capable of doing the work that they are expecting on it. So this is one of the major things that is, always haunting me. Like,
No, no. So you are just thinking so much because from your perspective and the year of experience you have, you pretty much, from my perspective and my point of view, you are good with the company standard and what the company need is, because you have already, by learning, you have already made the framework. So that is something nobody expect, like in the 2.8 years of experience, the person is already made the framework. Okay. So that is something which makes you very unique from other people who have the 4 years of experience, 4.5 or 5 years of experience. They even don't know like how we can make the framework. They only used to work on existing framework. So
look, shit.
yeah.
Actually, your voice was breaking. Yes,
Okay,
please
sorry.
continue.
Yeah, so right now it is okay.
Yes, yes.
So what I'm just like telling you like that, like you are already a unique among the other participants or the candidate because you have already made the framework. Okay. In the 2.8 years of experience, nobody expect from you, the people like you, you have already made the framework and all this stuff. So you have already the correct skills or correct knowledge, and you are also answering the questions in very easy and simple manner. Just few points you have to note down, like you just don't want to navigate the interviewer from here and there. Just short and crisp answer. And second thing is just wait for the call, because it is the last week of the December. So I probably think of like after the first week of Jan, you will definitely receive a lots of call. Okay. And I also shared the on the over the mail few tips also. So we just need to track those things, and then definitely soon you will get the new job also.
Okay.